Lights up!
Welcome to Lights Up, Putney Theatre Company's podcast, where we discuss all our shows, news, views and general chit-chat about all things theatre.
Thank you, Cait. Now here's the first of a series of reunion episodes featuring great productions with cast and crew as they remember those magic moments, the pratfalls and the ultimate triumphs. We're starting with Alice in Wonderland, an extravagant success born out of a COVID crisis. The session is led by director Frances Bodiam.
I am joined today by cast and crew of Alice in Wonderland, and we are going to be talking about the amazing performance that was Alice last year. We are joined today by Jeff Graves.
Hello.
Who was our producer but also artistic director at the time. We are joined by Cait Hart Dyke.
Hello.
Who was our Queen of Hearts. We're joined by Jim Dixon. Who was our co-director, my co-director, and Loetitia Delais, the Mad Cook.
Amongst other things. Chris
Cully, who was the White Rabbit and the Walrus, as in the Walrus and the Carpenter. And by Tim Iredale.
Hello.
Our Mad Hatter. And also Tweedledee. This wonderful production had some ups and downs, Jeff.
One or two, yeah. We were operating in the pandemic years, I think I like to call it.
And we originally were going up in December.
Yeah, December was the original date for 8 performances, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And of course, due to one or two difficulties, we rescheduled to January.
So let's go back to 2019. When Alice in Wonderland was first conceived as a production.
Lewis Carroll would have something to say about that.
The production of Alice in Wonderland was maybe first conceived. Jeff, would you like to just say how it all came about?
Yeah, we wanted to do another family show at Christmas time. We'd done a few pantomimes before, very successful ones, and we did, I think it was Treasure Island the year before. So we wanted to go along the same lines of getting a family show, but a well-known show, and using a team of PTC writers, which we've used very well before. So we kind of outreached for writers to come to us, and we had 7 very talented writers.
7,
yes, yeah. And they each were given a scene to write and draft and come back to us. So it's a kind of a two-way process. But then obviously the pandemic hit, and the unfortunate thing about that, they were all writing from home. They were all individually writing and not being able to meet like the team of writers were previously met before.
Yeah, so if I just leap in, just because I was one of the people that wrote a couple of the pantomimes that we've done in the past, and absolutely we were always able to just go down the pub and get together to, sit there and discuss the scenes and chat and drink and laugh. And that was really, obviously it was a lot of fun, but it was also really helpful. And I think my sense is that it was a very different and probably more difficult process for the writing team on Alice.
So it was a very uniquely individual experience for them all, I think. But they got it together, and we did come together for a read-through of the final draft. Which
We did. And we can ask Cait about this. Cait was involved in the first read-through of that first final draft. Cait, why don't you tell us how long it was?
It went on for days. Years. I think it was about 3.5 hours, and I stupidly hadn't had any supper beforehand. And I know, Tim, you were reading.
Was I involved in
I
this?
think you were. Yes, I did.
My memory's terrible,
Lizzie
sorry.
and you. Lizzie read Alice.
Right.
And I think you...
Was I a Russian Mad Hatter?
The
When I went down the Russian
Yeah.
route.
Yeah, you did. But I was the Queen of Hearts. Obviously.
We did all,
amongst other things, I think the Duchess
Yes,
as well,
yes.
and lots of other parts. So
Yeah.
it was great, but it was very long.
We did all realise, though, that we had a nucleus of a really good story.
Yeah, we did, absolutely.
And the characterisations were there.
Yeah.
We just needed to bring it back a bit and scale it down, which
we then did. So
Yeah.
Jim and I got the final script and thought it was going to be proper length, didn't we? And
Yeah.
it was not.
The length was an issue, I think, and I'd hate for anyone to think this is a criticism on any individual writer, but one of the issues was, as a side effect of that working in isolation, the I'd say consistency of the script was a bit off, just in the fact that tonally each scene was quite different. Some writers kept very close to the book and that kind of, chocolate box, whimsical kind of vibe, whereas other writers went very modern and wacky. So we had to try to create something that was vaguely consistent scene to scene. And then the other issue was that Alice, who obviously everything revolves around, she's in every scene, her character was not quite the same scene to scene. So again, but that's one of the very earliest conversations Frances and I had, was who our Alice is. So we knew that. We went into this second draft, Frances in particular went in with a chainsaw and just hacked it to where it needed to be, and then we just we made it our Alice.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, we added bits, we wrote in extra stuff, and we just refined Alice, as you say, in her own character. Okay, so we now have a script, and we've put out our audition notice, and we get 80 plus auditions, auditionees.
Yeah.
Very, very impressive. So, Chris, Cully,
Hello.
I remember you very distinctly at the audition. Can you tell us a little bit what you remember about the audition?
Yeah, it was my first audition with you guys. I think I'd written to you literally 2 days before to say, am I too late to audition? Please allow me to come. No, I think the first thing that kind of took me back, and I said this on a previous podcast, was the kind of professionalism of it. I thought it was just going to walk in and be like, let's play drama games. And it wasn't at all. It was, you had an interest of which character you wanted to play, and then we kind of really applied the animals. So for example, I wanted to audition for the White Rabbit, so we had lots of stuff to kind of move around as a rabbit. It was all of this really cool stuff, and then we did individual scenes with other people, so you got to meet people that had auditioned before, people that have never been here. I was quite taken aback by it all, extremely nervous actually. I was like, oh my gosh, audition.
How things have changed, eh?
Still the same, but
He's literally slipped back into the White Rabbit then, didn't he?
no, I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, and I think, needless to say, I'm here a year on.
Yeah.
It was really, really good. Good fun.
You were, I don't know if maybe I should say it, but you were so obviously our White Rabbit as soon as you walked on that stage. And
is it because of my long ears?
Yeah.
It's the puffy tail.
Cool, okay, so then we get to the read-throughs. So we had our first read-through in the bar. I remember being very, very nervous about it. So Jim and I bought loads of alcohol, which is always
helped.
good for a read-through.
It did
Yeah,
help.
absolutely.
It didn't show.
For a cast of 13, 14 at that time, I think. Alcohol and snacks, and I think it was a great evening. Everyone just gelled really quickly. It felt really, really fun. Any thoughts? Sorry, Jeff.
Before we go off the script, I think we don't forget the original songs we had that formed part of that script, written and performed by Simon Hurd.
Oh,
I
yes,
think that really
absolutely.
did. Well, not performed, actually, written by Simon Hurd.
I feel like we did some of it.
I apologise. No, written by Simon Hurd, which I think really did kind of work well with the script we had.
He'd pre-written some of them, hadn't he?
Yeah.
And then he wrote others as we went along. And Emily and Simon were our co-musical directors, and both of them in their own ways were absolutely fantastic. Simon wrote more the ensemble pieces, the chorus pieces, and then Emily wrote your amazing Queen of Hearts
I feel
song.
slightly guilty, not really guilty at all, but we just kept saying, no, why is the Queen of Hearts not got a song? Surely. And bless her, literally one rehearsal when everyone was doing dancing and I wasn't involved, she knocked it out. Basically wrote it there and then, and it was fabulous.
It was, and it really showed your character so well. It was so good. So good. And when we're talking about music, we should talk about choreography as well. And so we had the lovely Shakira Hilton and Sarah Raleigh, who both worked. Shakira more on the chorus numbers, on the amazing chorus numbers, and then Sarah more on some of the individual things. And we changed a lot along the way, didn't we? Which was really fun.
I think we're getting a sense of the scale of this production now, though. We've had 2 directors, 2 choreographers, 2 composers, 7 writers, a revolving door of set designers, which I won't get into. But I think this goes to show just how big a project this was. And this is my first time directing here. So, quite a project to sink one's teeth into.
Yeah. Okay, so first rehearsals, early rehearsals, any thoughts? Laetitia, you haven't said very much yet. What do you remember about rehearsals?
First, oh my God. Well, it took me a while to actually find my character
It
person.
What, the mad cook.
The mad cook, amongst the others. But it was actually... I just couldn't find it eventually, and eventually found it. But what, for me, regarding mad cook... It's my really annoyed you with mine because I wanted to wear a wig. And I bought one about a week before the end, and I said, "This is what I'm going to wear," and they said, "Oh, fine."
Yeah, whatever.
Wore them down.
Yes.
But the biggest thing about your rehearsal process was that you had to throw things across the stage.
Yes, that was quite.
Pieces of fruit and plates and wooden spoons and saucepans and frying pans
and pepper things, whatever you call that.
Yes, pepper.
Which I broke many.
Yes.
And hopefully not on someone's head, but almost. So that was actually, doing things and trying to actually make it wacky and funny, and I'm not sure if I've done any of those anyway, but it was actually quite difficult, and I know I was a bit pointy. I said, but I don't understand because it's not working that way, and obviously I don't see what you see, so but it was fun. Eventually we made it we made it fun, so that was
because all the characters were very much assigned on paper. The Mad Hatter clearly was mad because the language that he had was very mad, but you really had very little to go on, but you made that character so
and I had to create my bike story because I always do that.
She's looking at me because she knows.
Anyway, but it was fun, and
did you really create a backstory?
Yeah, I have to create my backstory.
What was it?
You met Laetitia.
Anyway, and
what was it? Just like,
it doesn't matter. I do remember. Yes.
He's got PTSD.
Well,
Is there a sideshow?
The Mad Cook is
a spin-off for the Mad Cook.
This was the Duchess, who I don't even think had any lines. He had a backstory for. She was having an affair with the
king. No,
with the king.
Me. Yeah, no, yeah. I was the lady in waiting.
The lady in waiting.
I had 5 different characters, so the lady in waiting. I said to myself, I've got nothing to say. I need to create a story. So I basically thought I was having an affair with the.
Which one was the witch? One of your characters you decided was a witch.
That was the Mad Cook.
That was the Mad Cook, right? Yeah.
What?
Which kind of work?
Oh,
yes.
wow.
No,
That's a lot of work.
I wanted to mention something when we were talking about auditions, though, because the auditions were an incredibly eye-opening experience for me, and I thought absolutely fascinating just seeing what people bring. But Frances, I know for both of us, the biggest anxiety we had going in was finding out Alice, because when she's not on stage, she's about to come on. The entire show revolved around her, and I have to say, when Frances James first took to our stage, dressed exactly how we'd described our Alice in blue dungarees and a white shirt.
Yeah. And headband.
That was a moment of, okay, we've found it. Yeah. There she is.
She looked like one as well.
She was Alice personified.
It's those moments as a director you kind of wait for and think, wow, that's it. It's magical.
Yeah, I have goosebumps just even thinking about that moment when she walked on the stage and opened her mouth, and we went.
And she wasn't reading Alice the first time we saw her either. I can't remember which role it was.
Well, she's clever to come dressed as the part.
Yeah.
Imagine though, if she stepped out on stage, you'd gone, wow, look at that, this is perfect. She's visualised it amazingly, and then she went, I'm Alice!
Would have been genius.
But she really was Alice, to the point that everyone actually just called her Alice. I think most people actually forgot her name was Frances.
Yeah.
Even now we speak to her and say, hi Alice, and it's like, no, actually it's Frances.
I remember her coming to the awards or something, a party afterwards, and she looked so much older because it was like, oh my god. And she said, well, yeah, well, I don't normally look like that. I don't normally go around with dungarees and a white shirt, you fool. She said, I literally obviously had to look about 15.
And she had a beautiful voice too as well.
Beautiful singing voice, yeah. She had a lot of nice songs. She had that beautiful song right at the very end.
Yeah.
Which
Very
was,
touching.
she did beautifully. Yeah, when Chris,
Left
indeed,
in
as the
place.
White Rabbit, had to place her,
Yes.
dance with her. And what are your memories of the White Rabbit, apart from... I have this wonderful picture of a photo taken, which was my gift at the end of the... that you probably got one too.
No, we didn't bother
kitchen
getting
wall.
one to show. Oh, spoiler alert.
And Chris is lying across the front of everybody in his White Rabbit costume, but with a mask on because he was recovering from COVID.
Well, thanks to the Mad Cook, she very kindly gave the cast. It's like the domino effect, just
Oh
one
my
by
gosh.
one,
Well-
everyone fell. So we ended up having to push it back so we were supposed to open in December and then it got pushed back to January, and I was literally still testing positive pretty much right up until the day before, and then I messaged both of you two and I was like, I've got one line, can I please come back? Yeah, because you were going to have to...
I very nearly had to play the White Rabbit.
We rehearsed
I-
for two
Oh my
couple
god,
of
that's right, you
times.
did.
I think it was our penultimate dress.
Yeah.
I went on as the White Rabbit. Yeah,
You were fabulous, my dear, I remember.
Well, thank you, but I was
You had to learn the lines very quickly. And,
indeed,
Better
yeah.
than Chris, I thought.
What was fantastic is
We were all hoping for a double liner.
Did you run out of
well,
red
I
hair?
wasn't. But what was fantastic is in the final scene, in the court scene, he's holding a little clipboard, so I just had my lines on that.
That's right. Unfortunately, I couldn't quite see them. Yeah.
Can we just loop back a little bit to that awful time in the middle of December when we had to make the decision not to go ahead with the original production dates, Jeff? Can we just talk about that a bit?
Yeah, it like somebody just said, a cast member came down with COVID, then another member came down with it, and within probably about 4 or 5 days, I think we had 4 or 5 people with,
Yeah.
with
7 members of the
Yeah,
cast.
seven.
yeah, and we were fast approaching, I think, being a week out from the show.
Yeah.
And I kind of talked to the people in the office, well, Veronica in the office, to see potentially if there was a date in the new year, just between the two of us. And there was a window. So I kind of thought, right, okay, I'm going to talk to the 2 directors. And funny enough, it was in the office where we are now, in the theatre, that I said, guys, we need to talk. And it was a very collaborative conversation and very grown up as well. Everyone knew these were unprecedented times. There was no rule book for it. There were no kind of there was government guidance, but
Yeah, but please.
yeah, but it was a kind of grown-up conversation, and we kind of realised, okay, we do have this window in January. Let's kind of reset for that time. And again, thank you to you two for working together as a team and coming up with that. And the biggest, I think, hardest thing was talking to the cast.
Yeah, that was
because
awful.
I know 1 or 2 were quite adamant they felt we could still continue. But having said that, on the other hand, that I knew 1 or 2 members of the cast had vulnerable relatives, so we had to take that into account. But I think, I know we did the right thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we
I
did
was
really
so
Because
relieved.
you made the decision, if I remember correctly, you made the decision when we'd had 3 or 4, and then after the decision was made, another 3 or 4 went down.
Yeah.
And we were
Yeah.
the entire cast, including music, Simon and Emily.
Yeah.
They also ended up. There was no way what Alice just goes up on her own.
We
and
made
plays
the
the best.
And the Queen of Hearts. Well, now there would have been a show, people. What were you thinking?
Monologue.
And I think
Thanks.
the only down
yeah.
thing is we ended up doing 4 performances
Yes.
rather than the original 8.
Yeah.
But we did it.
better than
You know,
nothing
we
at all.
did
I
it,
was so
yeah.
grateful
Yeah.
when I found out. I was so grateful
Yeah.
because I was the one as well, and I was crying my
I
eyes
think
out.
initially I was really gutted to be. We all worked really hard, and I was like, so we're just not going to have a show now? Is that literally
Yeah.
what's going to happen?
There was
Yeah.
such
And I think that's
Right.
what started the
Dark
kind
day.
of punch.
Yeah.
But when we were like, look, we'll get to do 4 shows, I was like, as long as we get to do it.
I was weirdly always just absolutely confident it would happen. I don't know, because I did quite a lot of chatting with the newbies behind the scenes. I don't know how much you guys know about that, but I had a few of the new members of the cast were kind of asking me, you know, what should we do, what will happen, what's going to happen to the show, etc., etc. And I just always flatly stated, oh, it'll happen next year. I had nothing to base that on, but I was 100% confident it would find a slot and we would happen at some point.
Yeah.
Whether that was January or the following Christmas.
Yeah.
We were absolutely adamant that it, you know, so much hard work had gone to it, so much creativity, so much energy it created on stage. It was amazing. That it just couldn't not happen. It had to happen.
I came in on a Saturday after we made that decision, and it was a kind of cold, empty theatre again. It should have been the tech day. It should have been busy and vibrant. It was empty, cold, but the sets were still there.
Yeah.
Costumes were there.
Yeah.
The props were on the table, and it was like, no, this will happen. This will happen. So we kind of wrapped it up, put it in storage, really. And I think again, it's collaborative. It's a theatre that looks forward rather than back, and we were determined to make it happen.
Absolutely.
And I remember when we came back, so there was about 10 days between Christmas and New Year, and we came back for the first, like proper rehearsal or run, shall I say. And then all of you said, oh my God, it feels like you never stopped.
Yeah.
It really
We knew
did.
everything.
Such relief.
We just like...
No, nothing was forgotten. It was just like you'd picked up. It was the next day. So it went actually up on the 6th to the 8th of January in the end. So that was Thursday, Friday.
That was the thing. It was 4
Saturday.
performances, but only over 3 days as well.
Yeah. So we had 2 on the Saturday matinee.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so I'd love to just get a few thoughts about your favourite moments of the show. Cait, your favourite moment of the show,
Oh,
please.
playing croquet, surely with my hedge pigs.
That was...
Hedge pigs.
That was an amazing
That
scene.
was actually quite interesting, and there was a lot of background as well about the croquet
Well,
thing.
there was.
We had to
Whether
learn
they were
how
going
to play croquet,
have,
didn't we?
Oh my God, the rules! Someone got the rules out. And people, seriously, we've got about 30 seconds. Calm down. But I remember the whole debate whether we have real hedgehogs
yes.
as obviously cuddly toys, people. Cuddly toys. I hasten to add. No
Hedgehogs are
animals.
trained to roll.
It got a bit tricky, didn't it?
Well, I was very
Stagecoach
keen.
hedgehogs.
I was very keen to have something that we actually hit.
Careful now. Family show.
It was the only disagreement Frances and I had the entire time as
I'm
co-directors.
so pleased I instigated it.
Frances was adamant there needs to be a physical hedgehog on the stage that we hit around, and I was saying, no, just sound effects, that'll be fine.
Absolutely, I was with you, Jim.
Yeah,
And
I was with you, Jim.
As
I
soon
completely
as,
am in your camp.
Thank you.
well, as soon as we had those stuffed hedgehogs and the chaos that brought, not knowing where they would fly
God,
off
it
to
was
when they would hit,
brilliant.
it was hilarious, so
My
I was
actual
wrong.
proper celebratory when I actually got it through the hoop there was no acting required.
So we found your highlight of the show then.
All of us, actually, everyone were basically looking at it and said, and it was, we were not acting, we were just so surprised
It
and
was
so
a real
pleased.
game, yeah.
And obviously the audience actually followed that as well. They were basically...
From an audience point of view, it was hilarious.
It was.
Yeah.
And you
And
could
then
feel the
watching-
tension on the stage.
It
and
was.
the audience.
That was pure
And those
tension.
hedgehogs had no lines, but they had a backstory.
Which one was the witch?
Brilliant. The business it could provide, because we had there was the shot upstage where we had Olivia dressed as one of the card soldiers
bless her, yeah.
moving around as the hoop, so that trying to predict where the hedgehog was going to go, so it go perfectly between her legs. It's just these lovely bits of comic business.
Yeah, what happened
fantastic.
to the hedgehogs? Did anyone take the hedgehogs home?
I was just thinking that. I don't know.
They're in the West End, I believe.
They were returned to the wild.
Unharmed.
Okay, so thank you, Cait, for your favourite moment. Jeff, your favourite moment?
I think with everything that happened, obviously, the show being temporarily closed down, when it did open, sitting at the back watching it, and watching Tim interact with the audience, a live audience that we hadn't had in the theatre for probably about 2 years previously, and going off cuff and just being Tim, and the audience enjoying it, and the theatre being a hive of excitement and laughter.
Yes.
And I was sitting there going, yes, we got this done, and it was for a
brilliant.
good reason.
Yeah.
We were always worried each time what it's going to say, what he's going to come up with. So that was quite interesting every time, but that was fun.
We should just mention here. So when Jim and I cut the 3.5 hours down, actually it felt like it was a little bit short the second half. So Tim came down the stairs as Mad Hatter at the beginning of Act 2 and interacted as he walked down the stairs with the audience, introducing himself and the audience to the characters in the Mad Hatter scene, in order to puff out the timing a little bit. Tim, how about telling us a little bit about that? How did you...
Well, you came to me actually about two. You asked me to pad at that point, and then said, "Oh, it still needs extending." So there was the additional bit of padding where
Scene change as well, wasn't it? We had a scene change.
There was a scene.
Yeah.
that was the setting up of the Mad Hatter's tea party.
Yeah.
Was when I was coming down the stairs. But then we also had the extra bit where in the script there was a little bit of a poem based on Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and then for my sins, somebody came up with the idea, and I agreed foolishly to do a bit of improvised poetry as well. that was it's fun and it's tricky. I've said this a number of times because people were very kind often after the shows and kind of went, "Oh, I don't know how you could do that." And I do believe that the real difference between me and other people during those kind of improv and audience interaction scenes is not any kind of talent or great ability. It's really just having the monstrous ego to think that I can do it and I can get away with it. And that's the only... anybody can do it. It's just whether or not you've got the confidence to give it a go. So yeah, and I think it was kind of slightly inspired by the fact that we did something similar during Jack and the Beanstalk to disguise a scene change. And yeah, it's great fun because, I'm a massive paraphraser anyway, so scripts are always guidelines more than actual words. And this is, just taking that to its extremes. And you get... Yes, you obviously start the moment thinking, oh, good grief, what if the audience stays absolutely silent? What if I get nothing to work with here? But invariably, you get somebody bringing you something absolutely fabulous. More often than not, the most hilarious moment in any given performance is something that a member of the audience has said that you didn't know was going to happen. And it's always great fun.
Yeah, great. So that was your favourite moment? Or was there another favourite moment?
That would be egotistical of me to say that. When you mentioned that, I was trying to think what my favourite moment was, and I was just kind of going a bit vague and bland and going, the whole show was absolutely wonderful. I enjoyed meeting all these great new friends, etc., etc. And then I realised, no, what the actual favourite moment was seeing Kim Dias dressed as a captain.
No, actually getting dressed and undressed, that was the first part.
Yes. So we should mention Kim's caterpillar costume, which Jeff and I identified at the National Theatre, and actually there's a picture of it in the National Theatre bar restaurant area.
Not
which
of Kim,
not Kim in it. About 5 months before, and we said we have to have Kim in this caterpillar costume.
We saw it and we thought, even if it means a personal expense, and which I think we probably did. I think in the end, and seeing Kim on that every night being wheeled out.
Yeah, was amazing. Thank you for that. Again, Chris, favourite moment?
I don't know. Now I feel like this is going to be egotistical, but I think my favourite part is in terms of my bit that I played was the walrus. The walrus and the carpenter was just... At first I was like, oh, why do I have to do this? I don't want to do the walrus. And by the end of it, I was like, I really like playing the walrus. I think also the fact that I couldn't actually see anything. All I could see under my walrus mask was just like my feet just kind of going along and like having complete trust in Sarah that she's just going to take me where I need to go. And watching you every night do your seductive oyster dance at me. Hello, Mr. Walrus.
That was fun, actually.
Yeah. Laetitia.
Well, that was actually. I like that particular part just because, first of all, Tim every night was not in the right place, always basically surprised me. So I had no idea which hand is going to come up. So that was like, okay, I'm going to go with the flow as usual. And obviously that move seemed to be somehow make people laugh, which was quite nice. And yes, talking about animals, so one of the exercises we had to do, the director's asking us to do some searches about how your animal's supposed to move. And so I'd search oysters movements.
Did you find much?
You just don't know. I was just about to say the same thing.
Well, because don't
came from a broken home.
You were the mummy oyster that had the little kid oysters.
Mummy oysters, yes.
Sheltered existence.
So I had to find something quite funny. So we had some oysters, a beautiful oysters shell made by wood, and it was just fun. And I thought to myself, I had to do something thing. So it reminded me of one of the songs where the girls who were like dancing like that, and I just
Works well on an audio.
Yeah, I was going to say, can't see that, mate.
Anyway, Addicted to Love. That song.
Addicted to Love.
Yeah, and they were basically dancing, and I thought,
Right. And Jim, how about your favourite moment?
I'm going to preface my favourite moment, so I'm going to contrast two moments here. So the day we had to make the terrible decision to delay the show, that will always stick with me. It started in the morning when my phone started ringing, and I saw it was Loetitia, and I thought, she's found another wig.
And the wig's got a backstory.
When I answered, I mean, you couldn't speak, you were inconsolable, and I thought, okay, I know what's happened here. Letitia's been diagnosed COVID, or COVID positive, and just from that moment, everything that day unravelled in some way. You know, we were finishing off the set that day. We came in, Frances and I, and we were working with Jeff and Barney and Richard, and Martin was in as well, all the tech people setting things up. And then eventually I was fogging the dressing room and the stage, just going, right, just trying to defeat COVID in every way we could. We could still do this. We can still go ahead. And then when it became clear that it just wasn't an option,
After the fifth person had rung.
yeah, it was it was dark. I mean, there was so much work had gone in, and we were so close. And there was a very morose evening at the pub afterwards. But then, to contrast that, I mean, there was the moment Frances and I sat for the first performance with a bottle of champagne between us, just enjoying ourselves. But actually, it was the Saturday matinee where we had so many kids in the audience. And that was the audience I wanted for this show. Just so many children with their parents. And it was during the interval, walking to the bar, I overheard two conversations. One was a little girl trying to decide who her favourite character was, and she just couldn't because there were too many that she loved. And then a boy talking to his mum. The mum said, "Do you like it?" And he said, "Like it? I love it." That for me was just put a spring in my step.
Yeah.
And I think, thank you everybody. I think we'll just leave it right at that point. Amazing experience, and thank you all for being part of it.
Thank you for casting us,
Yes.
more importantly.
Yes.
And before we go, of course, I have to plug Dick Whittington, our panto in January, from the 6th to the 14th. You can buy tickets from www.putneyartstheatre.org.uk, also on Instagram, links on Instagram and Twitter, and also now on TikTok, my friends. I know. Oh, TikTok, see what you did there. We're moving with the times. So please do buy your tickets. They're selling really well, so we'd love to see you there.
Thank you so much for listening. This is a real Putney Theatre Company production. Do share the podcast with your friends and take a look at our website, searching online for the Putney Theatre Company. So that's it for now. See you next time.